I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. After kicking off 2022 with a quick visit to New York, it was time to head out again for a chance to try out a new coaster at a favorite park in Central Florida. And getting there would involve taking a flight with an airline I had never tried before. As 2021 was coming to an end, SeaWorld parks began sharing their plan to open several coasters that had been intended for the 2020 season, but were delayed due to the pandemic. As part of the opening of these coasters, they planned preview events at several of the parks, and the preview of Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando happened to fit within my days off at work. So with my recently gained ability to enjoy standby flights on JetBlue, I went ahead and enlisted for the red-eye to Boston, connecting to Orlando, then coming back through New York for the connection home to Seattle. There was a bit of a hiccup though, as the flight from Boston to Orlando became overbooked, so I was afraid I'd have to cancel the trip. That was until my friends Andrew and Emily, who are flight attendants with Frontier Airlines, offered help with a buddy pass. So not only would my trip continue to Florida as planned, but I'd get my first experience flying with Frontier. I've tended to avoid American low-cost carriers, in part because of their reputation, and because of having two larger airlines more readily available out of SeaTac. But having done a few foreign low-cost carriers when traveling abroad, this was a chance to see how one of the American ones compared. Shortly after that New York visit, I moved further away from SeaTac Airport to be closer to work, which for some trips will necessitate driving and using off-site parking for those times when the schedule of public transportation may not fit in travel plans. Like the previous trip though, I'd get to enjoy a flight in JetBlue's Mint cabin. Although this time it was one of the side-by-side seats, so there was the possibility of having a neighbor without that nice added privacy of the partition door. Yet this was still a great way to fly red-eye because of the additional space and the fully lie-flat seats. As the sun was starting to rise above the horizon from a higher elevation, we made our approach to a snow-covered Boston Logan Airport, flying right over the mouth of Boston Harbor. One of my previous connections through Boston back in 2007 started with an American Airlines flight from Raleigh and connected to an Alaska Airlines flight to Seattle, and it led to experiencing a bit of a quirk in this airport.
So one thing I hate about Boston Airport is how you have to exit the terminal to go to the other terminal. It'll make it very easy if you do have connections in other terminals here.
Luckily, as I was looking for the other terminal, I discovered that Boston does have connecting walkways between terminals. This particular path between terminals C and A had a neat display showcasing various movies that had been filmed in the historic city. I also appreciated being able to avoid the cold weather outside, since that previous connection that involved walking through the garage was during the summertime. Somewhere I had read that the flight with Frontier would be taking off from Terminal A, but as I got there, something didn't quite seem right. It turned out that Terminal A was essentially a Delta-exclusive terminal, so I had to scramble to find which terminal Frontier flew from, as unfortunately Frontier itself didn't seem to know where it was flying out of, and the airport's website was no help either. Luckily, the magic of Google came in clutch, where the Frontier and airport websites both failed. The downside though, I was in the opposite corner from said terminal, so that meant taking a hike through the parking garage to save some time. When I got there, the departure board was much more promising for getting the right flight. Upon entry into the secured area though, I discovered that if the correct information was more readily available, there could have been a significantly shorter walk.
The whole mess could have been avoided if the information had just been up to date. But luckily there's enough alternate sources for information about airports that help figure out that it is at E.
Regardless though, I was looking forward to adding a new airline to the list of those flown, and to satisfy my curiosity about Frontier compared to some of the low-cost carriers of other countries. One thing I liked about Frontier right away was their featuring of a different animal on each of their aircraft, such as this Airbus A320 with Cliff the mountain goat on the tail and sharklets. The seat itself wasn't too bad for this quick 2-hour flight, and I lucked out in getting a row with extra legroom, which was greatly appreciated. While I might not be the biggest fan of Boston Logan's layout, I have to give it credit for having some really awesome viewing opportunities during takeoff and landing in the daytime. As we went over the clouds, I took a nap until our approach to Orlando.
For that traditional first ride of Orlando, the Mayor Buddy Dyer experience.
Hello, this is Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer. If you're a resident of Central Florida, I want to welcome you home. If you're a visitor our community, welcome to the city.
And with that, Andrew and I made our way over to SeaWorld, where we catch up with several other friends. It was a lighter day crowd-wise on this Tuesday in February, which was a great time for taking advantage of the preview being held for Icebreaker, the new premier multi-launch coaster with a rear spike, a top hat, and multiple airtime hills. I'm a fan of this one, especially with the unique touch of starting with a reverse launch that leads into the next 3 with increasing speed each time before going over the top hat, and then the successive quick pops of air from the smaller hills. I wouldn't call it a top 10 coaster, but it's definitely one that complements the park's collection very well. Speaking of their coaster collection, while we were here, Manta was undergoing maintenance and painting, so it was unavailable. However, we did get to enjoy the recently repainted Kraken, sporting a new color scheme. I might have also purposely worn a certain shirt and hat, as I was expecting to take a spin on said coaster. It's still the solid ride I remember it being, offering some great forces in a layout, with many of the B&M inversion hits. We also got a lap on one of my favorite coasters in all of Orlando, the excellent hypercoaster Mako, and spent some time with sea lions and penguins. Before taking final laps, we enjoyed a drink or two at the new Glacier Bar located near Icebreaker. It was a short visit, but I enjoyed getting a chance to re-ride some favorites, check out the newest thrill of the park, and spending some time with some good friends. I even had a chance to catch up with my friend Chelsea that evening in Kissimmee for dinner before heading to the airport hotel for the night. The JetBlue flight I was planning to take up to New York had much better availability than the one I originally had planned from Boston to Orlando. So much so that it felt like I had the entire back of the plane to myself. It was nice to take advantage of the open space to do some vlog work during the flight, but I did pause for a moment when I noticed that we were flying right above the outskirts of my old hometown in North Carolina, and somewhere out there just a bit further east were my mom and stepdad. A bit later, we made our approach to JFK.
So the dilemma that I run into with the flight benefit on JetBlue is that the connections aren't always great. Right now there's just a one-way flight to Seattle that takes off around 7 o'clock tonight, and I couldn't get on anything later than 11 o'clock from Orlando because everything was either full or they just didn't have later flights that would be able to make that connection. And while I could go ahead into New York for a bit and explore, got to figure out what to do with my bag, got to store it somewhere, got to get into town, taking the subway and things like that. And 7 hours, it's probably enough time to do something, but kind of have to worry about making it back for the connection, and I don't want to miss the flight to get back because otherwise I'm waiting until the next day.
With a bit of a longer layover, I decided to explore the terminal a bit more, coming to the central hub where a special memorial had been arranged for fallen officers of the New York Police Department. I also looked into where I could take advantage of my priority pass, which included the ability to use the massaging chairs of Be Relax. Other options called for some more creative methods to get there.
So JFK does offer other businesses that are part of Priority Pass. Unfortunately, they're all at the other terminals, and the terminals aren't really connected on the secured side from Terminal 5 here. Well, there's one exception. So I think we'll go ahead over to Terminal 8, see what there is to see over there. Strike that. Gotta have a connection.
Seeing as how getting to the other terminal wasn't an option, I decided to take advantage of the available workspace near the gate for my flight and keep working on some video editing. As the time to depart was getting closer, I began to wonder if the flight might become delayed due to fog that had rolled in. But not only did the flight go as scheduled, I almost missed it.
So normally before I take these flights, I do a picture of the plane and a picture of the sign. Unfortunately, my dumb self was busy typing away on a script for a previous vlog, and I completely lost track of time. All of a sudden I look up at the screen and I see boarding doors closed. And I look at the clock on my laptop and my phone and I see that it's 5 minutes before 7 and the flight departs at 7:15. I was like, oh my God, did I just miss the flight? Like, I was deep into this typing. I run to the gate, half of my stuff hanging out of the bag. Luckily, the plane hadn't left. They didn't actually have the doors closed, it just said so on the sign. A little bit of a panic, but I made it and I'm going home.
On the previous Mint flights, I would just try to go right to sleep to get as much as I could. However, since I'd given myself a minor panic attack from almost missing the flight, that wasn't going to happen for a bit. So I decided to try their onboard meal that included a nice steak and a very delightful vanilla gelato with peaches and crumbled graham cracker. landed in Seattle meant another successful standby adventure was complete.
You know, I've got to be honest, it really makes such a huge difference to be able to sit toward the front of the plane and get a chance to use those lay flat seats with JetBlue Mint. It's made it so much easier just to be able to relax while flying across, especially on those overnight flights. And that can be really helpful with some of the travel plans I've got coming up for the summertime. And I just got to say, thanks to Phil. Hold on a second. Sorry, I really shouldn't be doing. Oh, hey, it's Philip. Hold on a second. Let's see what he's got to say here. He's telling me that he's leaving JetBlue and he's switching to Southwest Airlines. But if he switches to Southwest, that means no more Mint flights. Wait a minute. Southwest Airlines flies to more places out of SeaTac than JetBlue does.
Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.